Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, a podcast that transcends the typical personal development journey. You're not new to this. You've read the books, attended the seminars, and perhaps even tried various coaching programs, yet something still feels amiss. Elon and Guy have over 2 decades of relentless searching and $1 million invested in their personal growth quest. Here's the revelation. You're not missing anything. You're not even behind. You might have just been searching in the wrong places. In each episode, we'll uncover the most effective, straightforward practices that have profoundly impacted our lives and the tens of thousands of our clients from all over the world. This is about real, sustainable results for those dedicated to their personal and spiritual growth. So get ready to explore and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Ian. I see a bunch more in here. If you guys are here, just say hi so we know. And we can then say hi to you as well.
If you're just getting in here, feel free to say hello. Let us know that you're there. Especially if you're new to the community, we'd love to give you a hearty welcome and welcome you into this beautiful space and that not only us, but our community has created. And if it is your first time here with us, then just so you know, these Tuesday lives are in perpetuity. They have been every single week, unless, I think in like the last 4 years, we've probably missed like 2 weeks total between Elon and I, just sometimes, life.
Not bad.
Life calendars, but it's pretty rare that one of us is not at least here, and usually it's the both of us. These are exactly what they're named. They're Tuesday tune-ups, right? These are an opportunity to have kind of like not just an inside look at how we operate in our lives, but also to just kind of have like these really hopefully engaging and wide conversations about the area of mindset, of personal transformation, of energetic healing. You guys are certainly welcome to ask questions. We can't always get to all of them, but if they are pertaining or in alignment or parallel to the conversation, we're always happy to go into certain things that you guys have. So feel free, if you have something really specific that you want some feedback on, we're happy to do that as well. But this is really about, like for Elon and I, we've been in work for 21 years. The power of community and having people around us has been apparently clear for a long time, even more in the last 7 or 8 years, about the absolute necessity to work inside of a community of people who are in the pursuit of the same things. I don't care if you're trying to have the best relationship on planet Earth, or you're trying to be the most immaculate business human or the best coach. It's always good to be in some sort of a mastermind of people who are like-minded and who are looking through a particular lens and are all working through something. Now, does that mean that everything is always working out beautifully and there's no bumps in the road? Of course not, right? But that's the whole point of being in community, is that we are all human beings making the mistakes that human beings make. We all need reminders, and we all need to be engaged in the areas of life that are of most interest to us. We could tell you for certainty, transforming your life, changing your habits, evolving your mindset, doing healing work is not a weekend retreat. It certainly can help and accelerate the process of learning to go into immersion and intensified experiences, and we welcome you to do that. Our programs are all built around the experience of immersion into this work. Having said that, we're not here to give you a dopamine and a serotonin hit and send you on your way and be like, good luck. Because what we understand is that doing transformational work or being engaged or curious about transformational work is learning what that lifestyle looks like. What do you do on the day in, day out type of stuff, right? Like, what is it that we do? Because, I'm sure Elon would say the same thing, but it's been a really, really long time since Elon and I have done work under the guise of there's something wrong with me, I need to fix it. Like 18 years since I've thought that. Okay. I used to do work because that's what I thought was going on, and I needed to fix something about myself. I thought I had to escape my suffering. I thought I had to do a lot of stuff. I didn't recognize that it was all about really having intimacy with my experience. It wasn't really about escaping my experience. And so part of that for all of us is we tend to enter the work thinking there's something wrong with me, I need to resolve it. And that's I think an important part of anybody's process, right? Like, I don't know that anybody skips that part, because that's what we see. We see that something is wrong or that we're deficient in some way. And to some degree, like, that's, again, just part of being a human being. And it's for that reason that we need conversations like this. It's for that reason that we get to have a community around us that supports us, that reminds us of who we are when we forget who we are, because it always happens to everybody. I don't care how much work you've done or, anything else like that. Like, there are moments that do scare you right out of your pants, or you kind of fall back into an old habit and you feel a little bit stuck. And so we're here to paint a vision on a weekly basis and beyond, right? Depending on your level of commitment and how much work you choose to do with this community or other communities. We're here to, like, continuously paint the picture of what we've been able to discover, uncover, and create in our lives over a 21-year period that has led to a significant enhancement in the kind of stability that we get to live in. And stability in our relationships, stability in our health and wellness, stability in our mental well-being, stability in our energetic and emotional well-being. Like, these are the things that Elon and I have spent a lifetime working on. And, if you value credentials and all that kind of stuff, like, I don't know any PhD program that goes on for 21 years, but Elon and I have essentially taken that on as a lifetime's worth of work. And we don't do it because it feels like work to us. It has never felt like work to us. I've never done a single program, done a single plant medicine worked with a certain teacher ever to think, oh God, I have to do that now. Like, it's just never been that way. And it's totally fine, by the way, if that's how you feel about it, right? Because looking at yourself can sometimes bring up a lot of uncomfortable stuff. Being really honest about your life can bring up a lot of uncomfortable stuff. It does for everybody. And so, like, we do this work out of passion and out of love. And to me, even if I go see a medical practitioner, anybody in any field that I want to feel enhanced in or more secure in, I seriously only will work with people who are passionate about what they're doing. There are phenomenal doctors out there, but I will not work with one who's not passionate about what they're doing. Because what it immediately tells me is they went to school, they're good at what they do, but they're not interested in the ongoing evolution of continuing to learn and grow in that field. And it's really clear to me when I find somebody who is and somebody who's not.
Yeah.
Right? Because the ones who aren't are extremely rigid in their belief systems. It is what it is. They haven't evolved in 30, 40 years. Same medicine, same protocol, same this, same that, the other. Like, Elon and I are never satisfied. And that's because, like, we're like, oh my God, this is not good enough or anything like that. But it's like, we're always in the process of personal evolution. We only know what we know till the moment that we know it. And in the next moment, something can happen that reinforms us and allows us for us to get another evolution and another look at it and another take on it. And honestly, for me, even saying that little bit right there is one of the keys to having a lifestyle of transformation. It's not trying to find the right answer. It's valuing the experience that you've had up until now, knowing that is your truth until this moment, and that tomorrow that may shift and change and may open up into a much wider landscape and open up a whole other world for you, because that's what transformation is. That's what evolution is. There's no apex to it. There's no end to this process. And so underneath it is really just a lifestyle. What's that lifestyle, right? If somebody wants to have physical health for their entire life, you can't work out from your 20s to your 30s, get a raging six pack, right? Like, and just look amazing. And they're like, all right, well, I guess we've done the workout thing. And now from my 30s to my 60s, I'm going to eat like shit and do whatever I please. Like, you either have the lifestyle and you maintain that, or even grow and evolve, because as you age, you don't want to do the same workouts that you did when you were 20. Like, I certainly don't do the same things anymore, right? Because there are different things that happen to your biology, and you need to evolve your mindset. You need to evolve your stuff. And a lot of people, just to use that metaphor, we see who just cannot maintain physical well-being because they are still doing what they learned when they were 20 years old, trying to do that at 40, 50, 60 years old. And it's like, the body just doesn't want to do that, or doesn't work well when you continue to do that. Same thing happens with food, nutrition. It's like, everything needs to be an evolving process in your life, or gets to be an evolving process in your life if you want it to be so. And so again, just these conversations are really about, our perspective on what does that look like to have this ongoing evolutionary process, not get too attached to any particular thing, and really just live your life with a lot more stability, a lot more security, a lot more well-being, a lot more authentic connections and relationships, ultimately being able to really trust yourself and self-reference what you believe, why you believe it, and not having to have that be reaffirmed by everybody around you in order to know whether that's true or not. Right? Like we all have this wonderful gift of our unique perspective and our unique life experiences, and those are all extremely valuable. There's never, ever, 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 ever a time where I don't sit in a coaching program with people where I don't feel as much of a student by listening to other people talk as I do as a teacher who's sometimes leading and guiding as well. It's like everybody is so valuable if you just take the time to listen to how they're perceiving a certain experience in their life, and you can go, okay, where am I doing that in my life? And how is that shaping my belief system? How is that shaping how I interact with myself and others in this world? So I just wanted to kind of open with that. I just wanted, bro, it's up to you if you want to do this, but Elon has been on this really beautiful ride and stream. He's been sharing with me like all these like wonderful things that have been going on in his life. And he's just like, he's on a good one right now. You know, like it's like sometimes in life you just feel like you have the Midas touch, and Elon's just kind of in the soup of that right now, which is like super fucking awesome because it's so fun to be in that place. I would love to maybe just hear your hot take on what do you feel has been, you know, I'm sure it's a lot of stuff, but like, how have you landed here? What are some of the experiences that you've had? What are you, not like you're attaching yourself to it, but like how, you know, I feel like this is probably the longest state I've seen you in, kind of having this stability and also these like kind of magical happenings in your life. And I'm just curious how you would talk about it and what you attribute to all that.
Yeah. So that's a really, really good question. I'll start you off by when Guy says like in flow and, you know, in that kind of Midas touch state, I'll tell you guys the breadcrumbs or the things that I'm looking at and why it feels like that. So obviously I was in this amazing trip in South Africa and Dubai for almost 3 weeks. And the people, so in each place in South Africa, not in Dubai, in each place we had a guide that was with me and the family for the entire 3 days that we were in that city. So we had a guide in Cape Town for 3 days. We had a guide in Plettenberg Bay for 3 days. Then we had a guide in Safari for 3 days. And then we just had a guide for 1 day in Johannesburg. But we had a couple of other amazing experiences. And what I notice when I'm in this flow is the kind of people, the quality of people that show up in our lives. And so it just it feels like something is guiding, like there's this other force that's guiding everything. And literally from the waiters, well, not the waiters, the people on the plane that take care of you, to the chauffeur that drove us, to the people that helped us with our bags, to the guides, to the bell people at the hotel. Like it literally felt like everywhere we were going, we were just meeting these incredible people who were so friendly and so genuine and just so loving towards us. And I was telling Guy that the 3 guides that we had in Cape Town, in South Africa, every time we left them, like they left us and we left them as a family, we all hugged and cried. And that's kind of the connection that we had in 3 days with them. And so that's, to me, what leads me to notice that, like, oh, there's this amazing, amazing flow in life. And that's just kind of been going on for a while now from people that I meet with work here, you know, like prospects and or clients that we already have, and the way those conversations are going, and the way things just flow in my life. So I want to share with you guys a few amazing stories that happened. And then I want to talk to you about, like, I wish I could tell you it's like, oh, if you do this one thing, all this other stuff happens. I really wish I could tell you that, but it's not that. I can't put my finger on a thing that I'm doing that's having those results happen. At best, what I can tell you is there are practices that we talk to you guys about all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. We don't withhold them from you. We share them here on the Tuesday Lives. We walk people through it at our 2-day live event. When you join our more advanced programs, we literally walk you through these practices over and over again. And they're very, very simple. We have our meditation practices that we do. We have minis, presence practices that we do. And we have group sits that we do. And then Guy and I also work with a one-on-one coach. I think if you can do those 4 things in your life, so basically what you're doing is you're doing your self-to-self work, okay? Then you're doing your self-to-other work, which is either in mini or you get sessions. And then you do group stuff. And if you can do those things consistently, ongoingly, even if you don't know if it's doing anything, it doesn't feel like it's doing anything, you're not sure what it's doing, I'm telling you right now, 8 years down the road, it doesn't matter. Like there's no day where I was like, oh my God, this was the thing that created all this stuff, but it's not. Just like working out or wanting to get in shape, people will tell you, you can go to the gym all you want. You're going to eat shitty food. The gym's not going to make a difference. You can go to the gym all you want. If you're going to eat healthy and go to the gym, but on top of it, you're smoking cigarettes regularly and you're drinking a ton of alcohol, I'm telling you right now, that's going to have certain impact on your health, right? So you can kind of see like the more optimal things that you are doing, the better you're going to be. If you're doing all those things, but then you're only getting 4 hours of sleep a night, like that's going to have an impact on you. So to me, it's all these things. I can't tell you, oh, it's this one thing that I do and all of a sudden life goes into flow. And every once in a while, you just hit this place where it just feels so easy. Like life just feels effortless and flowy and so easy. It works. It doesn't matter. It's just like it's constantly working. So I've had a few incredible experiences of late, obviously traveling, meeting all these amazing people. I was sharing a story with Guy. I came back here last week and then had to fly out last Thursday to go hang out with my buddies. We do like a yearly trip that we do every year. And we've been doing this for 18 years now. Talk about consistency. I was trying to talk to my friends. I was like, what other thing have you done 18 years in a row? Like, ongoingly. So we go camping in this beautiful, beautiful spot. And we do beer tasting. And we cook food and we hang out. And it's really, really lovely. So anyway, the night before I leave, I had some guy working on my car to change the stereo system. And he was testing it and like the battery drained. So I needed to leave the next morning and my dad happened to be here and I told him that the battery was kind of dying and I had it plugged in to try to help it charge. And he's like, the charger that you have is not going to do anything. And I told him, well, I need to drive the car tomorrow. He said, don't do it. Take Fanny's. I said, I can't leave her without a car. So he's like, well, then you need a charger. You actually need to go and like charge the battery. So I run to Home Depot. It's 9:30 at night. I run to Home Depot and all I have on me is my phone because now you can pay with, tap or wallet or whatever it is. And I find the unit. It's 9:45. I find the unit. I go to the front. I scan it. I go to pay and the girl goes, we don't have tap. I was like, okay, well, can I just give you my card number and you guys can punch it in? And she's like, no, we can't do that. I was like, okay, well, this is all I have. I can't leave here without this unit because my car's going to die and I'm traveling tomorrow. And I don't have time to go all the way home and then come back because you guys are going to be closed. So what are my options? How can I make this happen? And she's looking at me like, sorry, like there's nothing I can do to help. I'm like, there's got to be something. She goes, do you have a Home Depot card? I said, no, I don't. She goes, that we can type in. I was like, okay, well, I don't have one. Can I get one? Because usually at these stores, you can apply for one and use it right away. I was like, if I apply right now and get it, can I use the card? She's like, oh yeah, you can do that. I was like, okay, see, now we're getting somewhere. So we start going through the application process. I'm filling out all the basic information. She goes, I'm just going to need your ID. I said, okay. I have a picture of it. will that suffice? She's like, yeah, I just need the number. So she's getting the number from me. I'm filling out the other information. And this lady behind her goes, you need your physical ID. And I'm like, well, I have, like, this is it. She goes, no, you can't do it without a physical ID. I'm standing there. I'm like, come on. So the girl looks at me. She goes, sorry. I was like, okay, what are the other options? Like, what if I give you money? Like, I'll send you money in Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, whatever you want, PayPal, and you pay for it. And she's like, sorry, I can't do that. Now, normally, I know like this would be kind of like where in the past, I would get really upset at the person, at the situation. You know, I'd get like all angry. None of that came up for me. Really, I was like shocked at how little they were trying to help me. But I was like, there's no way that I'm walking out of this Home Depot without this unit. Like, I'm going to make it happen. And so in that state, I was like, okay, all I need to do is find someone in this store that will be willing to, like, I can send them money and they can put it on their credit card or whatever. So I start walking, and normally that would be a great idea, only that it's like 10 minutes before they close and not many people in Home Depot, right? So I'm like walking up and down the aisles. I see this one guy. I walk up to him. I start telling him the story. He's like, sorry, I work here. I can't help you. I was like, okay. So I keep walking. I turn to the left, and lo and behold, I see this guy in a yarmulke with a beard and his daughter there. And I'm like, okay, thank you, God. Like, this is my guy. So I walk over to him. I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you a crazy story, and I really could use your help. So I tell him the whole story about how I forgot my wallet, but I'm leaving tomorrow and my car's dead. And if I leave here without it, I can't go to the airport, And before I even finish and ask him for what I want, he goes, oh, you want to just Zelle me and I'll pay for it? And I was like, yes, thank you. And I actually say thank you in Hebrew. And this guy goes, oh, and you're a Jew. I go, not only am I a Jew, I'm an Israeli Jew. And the guy, we start talking and about putting tefillin, and I'm telling him how my son is getting bar mitzvah in a couple of weeks, and he's asking me where he's getting bar mitzvah, and I tell him this whole story. Turns out he's like the head rabbi for Chabad for all youth in all of Florida. And I tell him that my brother-in-law is also a rabbi in Wilmington, Delaware. And he goes, what's his name? I go, Moti Flickstein. He goes, the rapping rabbi. I know Moti. Moti and me are friends. And at this point, I just start laughing because I'm just like, what are the fucking chances, right? Of all the people in all the world, like this is the guy that I interact with. So anyway, we start talking. He pays for it. We exchange numbers. We take a selfie. We're sending it to my brother-in-law. He's messaging my brother-in-law stories. I'm messaging my brother-in-law stories. It's this whole like thing. And I walk out with this box, and no, I'm not even exaggerating. I literally look up and I go, wow, you are funny. Just like funny. And the reason I'm so moved by like these happenstances, because then during the weekend, it happened a few more times. I don't want to get into all the stories of it, but like when you're in flow and you're not in disagreement with what shows up, the river and the flow of life always shows you another way. Like we went camping and there was a huge storm and our campsite was flooded and like all this stuff happened. We were driving up and my friend tire exploded on the highway and like all these things, right? Everyone is an opportunity for you to get pissed at life and get mad and start to fight and try to make something happen, like solve some sort of riddle, right? But think where your like energy is in that moment. You're not solving a riddle from a place of like, all right, so this is what's here now, right? My motto, as I always say, and now this. Most of us are in an argument with what is. So what is showing itself, like the thing that's showing itself to you, you're not happy with. And so now you're in this energy of I need to change this or fix this or change them or fix them or whatever it is. And this is what I think is the biggest reason that today I feel very in flow. Like in my system, I don't feel the resistance to what is and what isn't. I've just been kind of flowing. And it doesn't matter who shows up, and it doesn't matter what shows up, and it doesn't matter how it shows up and all that stuff. Like I have so much ease in dealing with it that something else quickly, very, very quickly keeps showing itself to me. The new person perfectly, like in that story, like I literally walked down the aisle, like the perfect person shows up, right? The whole thing happened with the campsite, which ended up being like one of the most amazing experiences of our entire lives in finding this other one, whatever. I don't want to get into the whole story, but like all of these things, I think the resistance to is what holds us all back. And
can I interject one thing here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, what at least what I'm hearing, right, is like this ability to remain open and stable regardless of circumstances, because like our thought energy and especially our emotional energy is so potent in manifesting what happens next. It's like every moment is giving you a trigger to either stay stable or to be reactive. And the moment you become reactive in energy, your reality becomes reactive towards you, usually not in pleasant ways. Now, I want to point out that Elon in his story is talking about all sorts of like micro hardships, like a tire blowing up on the highway, a campsite that's flooded, people that won't take payment and are offering resistance in that moment. It's not like everything is just working hunky-dory through that entire process, but instead of getting into what I know he would have done in the past, right? Definitely. Which is like a lot of frustration. What the fuck? Why is this? Why do I have to deal with this right now? Like that kind of energy, which is again, totally normal. So like if that's where you would have found yourself in these stories, like welcome to being human, right?
Yeah.
But like that's the reality. It's like we need to look at what's underneath all these kind of triggers and really see that it's not specifically that moment that's informing your reactivity. The moment is a trigger point for reactivity that's been in the system for a long time, usually pointing at some kind of trauma that happened in early childhood, in formative years, 0 to 7 type years. And like, that's just a response we automatically have in a moment of stress or things aren't working out. And over the years, I've seen Elon kind of soften. Stability, well-being. And I see it like how it's nurtured our relationship, I'll give him a lot of credit for that as well. And vice versa, I'm sure. So like, I want to point out that thing because when people approach transformative work, they approach it like, unless all my circumstances are fucking great all the time, this transformation thing must not be working. And I just want to, again, point out that that's not what Elon is saying in these stories. But what he has built the capacity to do, and it's truly in cultivation that this happens, is remain open, not collapse into conditioning, right? And remain curious as to what's possible now. If I was to kind of give it some language around here, right? And in that, it's like you just keep following the breadcrumbs, and it's like breakthrough happens.
Yep.
Or like this wonderful moment happens. Had he just gone into a reactive state, he would have probably sat there, chewed out that woman. She would have gotten upset. Yes. He would have gotten upset. He wouldn't have walked around the store. Like you see, like it's almost like you are riding the wave of probability. Now you can decide what's about to happen. And you guys have all done that in your lives. I've done that. He's done that a million times, where you start reacting and you already can kind of feel how this is going to end up. Like, okay, I say this, they say that, I do this, they do that. Fuck you. Like I go home upset. Like that's so typical. And we all kind of set stuff in motion that we kind of already know how it's going to end.
Oop.
Yeah, it's okay. Now more often than not, we think somebody else is responsible for that.
I have no idea what I just did, by the way.
You revoked my access by clicking something on my screen. Just whatever you click, just click it again.
No, I hit attendees and that happened. Let me see.
I just don't have admin anymore. Anyway, while he's figuring that out. So the point here is that like what we've been able to work on over the years, what you can be working on is all those autonomic or automatic triggers that occur in our system, that our system really does believe it's happening to me. Like someone's doing this thing to me right now, and I need to react and respond through defense or through hostility or through whatever it might be, or through shutting myself down, right? Like these are all different ways that human beings respond to the same type of stimulus in their environment. And at the end of the day, you learn this at home, right? You either learn to shut down, you learn to battle back, or you learn to just kind of, you either have willpower or you don't, basically. And again, it's a different defensive strategy for the same exact underlying issue. And so what is evolution in terms of our experience? It's our ability to consistently remain open and curious. Kind of what it all comes down to. Because for a lot of people, and you guys got to look where you're at too, even some of you guys to come on these Tuesday webinars and ask the same question every single week, what you're failing perhaps to see is that instead of looking for questions that open up more curiosity, you're asking questions that have definitive answers. And then you're often disappointed because you think you haven't found the right answer. And you think if you just had the right answer, I would be able to resolve it. Why don't these guys just tell me what it is already, right? Well, we could tell you from our perspective what we believe is the right answer, but that's just our perspective from the experiences that we've had. And I say this here all the time. As far as I'm concerned, again, I told you my preface about working with a medical practitioner. If they're not passionate about their work, I simply do not work with them because I know that their education stopped a long, long time ago. And the same thing with a teacher. I don't want a teacher that tells me what to see or how to do things. I want a teacher that points at something and they point in the right direction so that I can determine what it is that I see when they point in that direction. So I say this all the time. A teacher shows you where to look, not what to see. If you ever work with a teacher who's telling you what to see, that's more of borderline cult than it is a teacher, right? That's
Broski, I have no idea what it did, so maybe it just jump out and back in because I can't even find you in here.
Okay, can you see me on the screen?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So I'll jump out for a second.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Are you feeling inspired by these podcasts? Is this approach striking a chord with you? Imagine taking this journey even further with personal coaching from Guy and I, right from your own home on Zoom. Join us at our next live event. They happen quarterly. It's an accessible, cost-effective way to dive deep into these transformative practices, not just theoretically, but experientially. Attendees often share that they've experienced unprecedented levels of peace, support, forgiveness, and awareness. Remember, healing isn't just a mental exercise. It must be felt and released through the body. So here's a special gift just for you, our valued listener. Visit intuitivemind.live and use the coupon code OLDSOUL to receive 25% off your ticket. The Intuitive Mind event is unlike any other. So impactful that many participants return multiple times, some as many as 10, 12, even 15 times. Plus, once you register, we'll immediately send you a recording of a previous event so that you can start practicing right away. Don't miss this opportunity. Go to intuitivemind.live, secure your spot for our next live event using the coupon code OLDSOUL, and start your transformative journey today. Now, back to the show. In any event, I agree with Guy wholeheartedly about all of that. Like, I think a lot of the times people tend to think that having a transformed life or being in that state somehow gets you out of all of these things. And that's not been my experience. And I've not met teachers who have proven to me that that's the experience. All I keep seeing, let me see if he's messaging me here. Okay. He said the page is spinning, so he's trying to get back in. What I keep seeing, both in myself, our students, and others, is what life keeps sending you through this whatever hologram, right? It keeps sending you opportunities to create more safety, more stability, more surrender, more allowing. And what I find today is I'm at this sweet spot of it all, where these things keep showing up, and instead of arguing with it, instead of fighting it, there's just this relax and release into it. I'll give you a couple other examples. Like for whatever reason, I don't know why, but this was the last time I did it. I like to find people on Facebook Marketplace to do work on my car, around, like my house, things like that. A, it's cheaper. B, part of me feels good about giving other people, opportunities to do this work. And they usually come to my house instead of me having to drive somewhere. So I had this radio unit that I hired this guy to come in, and he was very confident and said worked at this other shop, and he's just doing this stuff on his own. I was like, okay, great. He comes here. He tells me it's going to be like a 30-minute maximum hour job. He was literally here for 4, maybe 5 hours and still didn't complete the installation correctly. So I gave him half the money that we agreed to. He said he was going to come back on Monday. And when he left, I was like, he's not coming back. Like, A, he's not coming back, nor do I want him to come back. And I walked into the house and I had this thought. I was like, why do I keep doing this? Like, I've had time and time and time again where I hire these people and they don't do a good job. And then I'm mad at myself. So anyway, I like right away, I was like, okay, I just need to call like a professional shop and go do it, etc. And that's what I did. Right. And I was like, okay, that's my lesson. I needed to learn that lesson. It's over. We were driving camping, and on Friday, we found out that our whole site was underwater. So instead of going camping and getting everyone wet and all that stuff, we created a plan B. We ended up going to Banya, which is like a Russian bathhouse, basically, with a bunch of our friends, and did steams and cold plunges and hung out and had food, then went back to my buddy's house and hung out there and had like a really beautiful time. And that was, instead of like camping and sitting in the rain, everyone kind of flowed, and we ended up doing that. Then we wake up the next morning, we're driving, and on our way, my buddy gets a flat tire. And I'm trying to change the flat tire. Luckily, he had a spare, but the flat tire, the nuts on it aren't opening. And so we finally figured that out. And then once we did all that, like I couldn't get the tire off. And so I'm like, starting into that world of, oh my God, I flew all this way. Now we're going to miss like the next 3, 4, 5 hours because we have to get a tow truck and someone to come here and fix the car and this and that. And in this moment, I kind of I hear all that and I just let it all go. And I'm like, okay, I need to get this tire off. What can I do to get this tire off? And I go and I just stand in the trunk of this car, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And all of a sudden I recognize that, sorry about that, broski.
Okay.
I recognize that there's a mallet, like a rubber mallet in the bag where the campsite, like the tent is. And I'm like, mallet. And so I take out the bag, I open it, sure enough, mallet in there, a couple of good whacks, and the whole thing comes off. And the whole story, within 15 minutes, we were back on the road. My friend is looking at me. He's never changed a tire. He doesn't know what to do. Like, he had no idea. Like, to him, everything that I did was like absolute magic. And he looks at me, he goes, holy crap, you fully channeled your dad. And I was like, that's what it felt like. It was like, my dad has this MacGyver ability to just always figure shit out. He just, when it comes to physical things, like he can always figure things out. And so I just sat there and I was so proud and happy and excited that instead of like missing a whole day of camping, right, this whole thing happened and we're done. So again, when you're in a safe, surrendered, allowing state, new information, inspired information will come to you. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze response, when you're trying to make some bad situation that you don't like in here be different, there's no inspiration. There's no new ideas. Because what happens in your nervous system is it's like a buckling down, like everything kind of squeezes on itself. And then what you're actually getting is now that I'm saying it, it's like what Wayne Dyer used to say. It's like when you squeeze something, what comes out? What's inside? So if you get squeezed and inside is anger, frustration, rage, worry, fear, whatever it is, that's literally what's going to come out. But if you're not squeezing and you're open and you're allowing, that's what allows for this new stuff to happen. And to me, that's actually what's continuing this flow from happening. Now, again, like guy asked me this question, do I know what exactly is the thing that's allowing for this all to happen? I do not. But what I can tell you is my daily practices involve sitting in silence and meditating. I have minis scheduled. I have 6 to 7 minis scheduled every single week. And I've been doing that now for 4 years, right? I have sessions that I give. I have sessions that I receive. I have group sessions that we're in. I have group meditations that I'm a part of, right? Like all of these things play into itself. And every moment for the last God knows how many years that has come my way, whether it's troubles in business or in relationships or with my wife or with my kids or with Guy or with my parents or whatever it might be, I always had the outlook that the universe, God, the world is sending you an opportunity to strengthen your nervous system, to strengthen, like the stress is here to simply bend so that you can find that stability in that stressful moment, such that when you end up in stressful moments later on in life, your system is not breaking. It's not snapping and squeezing and buckling down, but rather it has the ability to just kind of flow and bend and then just find its way back to center. So it doesn't matter what's happening and what is going on in your life. If you could just notice every opportunity, every situation as a way for you to grow the stability, grow the safety, cultivate more and more and more of it, then guess what? You're doing the work. And even if life looks messy and not what you want right now, and trust me, as Guy and I were doing this work, there were plenty of times that it didn't look the way we wanted to look or feel the way that we wanted to feel. And I knew deep down, like, just keep doing the work. Just keep doing the work. Just keep moving. And here's the cool part. I have no attachment to this flow sticking around. I'm not grasping onto it. I'm not holding onto it for dear life. I'm none of those things. I'm purely just in witness of. That's it. And when this moves, guess what? Something else is going to come. And I will ride that wave too. Because that wave, whatever it is, will also be here to teach me something. This work is not about getting your life to be perfect. It's simply about having an experience of life that you can dance and flow with. And no matter what happens, you lose your job, you lose a loved one, someone steals from you, something happens. Like, imagine having the ability to just be with all of it and not have one opinion about it or another opinion about it, but simply being in the ride of it. And to me, that's the flow. That's the opportunity. That's the gift. And that gift, honestly, just keeps on giving and giving. And I've said to Guy, like, it's so nice to have this experience of life without having the attachment to feel like, oh my God, I made it somewhere. And like, now I got to stay here forever. It's like, no, just now there's this.
Yeah. Can you make me the admin?
Yep.
Please. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know if you have time for this, but Alicia was asking if you have some context for mysticism. I don't know what you spoke about in terms of mystical experiences. I don't want to answer that for you.
I don't know if there's something specific that she's pointing to that I can answer.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I know Elon's going to leave here soon, but I can hang out with you guys for another 10 or 15 minutes. I'd love to you just kind of get your guys' feedback. What did you hear out of this conversation? Maybe what can we assist you with as far as that's concerned? And it could be something relating to it, but not super off topic as well. Yeah, and you know, when you talk, just to kind of talk about transurfing, like I hear you in the process of mastering excess potential.
Yeah,
you know, like not, you know, the hardest thing to do when you get triggered is not to react from the trigger, right? Like it's if we were to like kind of boil down spiritual practice into one thing, the one thing would be just surrender.
Always.
You know, like that's all it's ever asking of you. It's like, oh, the situation's here. Okay, surrender to it. You love this thing, surrender to it. It's not going well, surrender to it. You know, and like, and I want you guys to just notice maybe in your questions, or even if you're not asking it in the group, but like maybe in your own mind, it's like, notice that the question is not allowing for surrender. Notice that the desire you have for completion is not allowing for you to be where you're at right now. And to be where you're at right now, to be fully present, means to fully surrender to the experience that you're in. And I get that that's fucking challenging when your mind is going ape shit bananas in there and is telling you all sorts of demeaning, maybe even borderline demonic stuff in there. But I want you to also notice that in the pursuit of trying to turn that off, that its strength has not been lost. We all do the thing where we try to avoid the upset, the difficult emotion, the hard sensation in the body. We're like, no, not this, something else, right? Like, I don't like this meal. Let's go get a different meal. But this is the meal that's here right now. When you do personal development work or mindset work strictly, you just do that. What they teach you is how to manage and cope with the mind. You know, that's pretty much what it comes down to. And to some extent, living with the capacity to be able to manage the mind and cope with what it's arising in there is certainly better than it being fucking out of control, where you're just in a reactive, stressed out, overwhelmed, fight or flight state nonstop, and you don't even have an awareness that that's happening. And the truth is, as far as I can tell, still to this day, most of society is locked in that battle. If they're locked in a battle they don't even know that they're having. You know, we are in times where most of us do have a roof over our heads, at least in Western society, have a roof over our head and, you know, enough food that we're not dealing with, you know, hunger nonstop. And when that happens, and this is historically true for all civilizations that have reached a certain echelon of wealth, the boredom that people deal with naturally lends itself to having like a spiritual civil war within themselves. Because when your life is not about physical survival, all the stuff that we use, all right, bro. All the stuff that we use for physical survival as an avoidance tactic is no longer used, and all we have is just sitting with ourselves. And the discomfort that arises when we do sit with ourselves and actually let us have the experience that we're having. Now, here's the rub, is that what's arising, as you've been misinformed and misled to believe that it's no good. And so that in that context of no good, those sensations to you have become as if they are apprehensible. Like you should not be experiencing that. Like, I'll give you an example. We grew up in a Russian household, a Russian Jewish household, it would be maybe more fair. And so our family life was informed by historical family from Russia, then a family that landed in Israel and the culture that was there, and then of an immigrant mentality that my parents who immigrated from both the former USSR to Israel, and then from Israel to America, who did two different migrations. And so we have lived in three completely different cultures our whole life. Okay. Now, the reason I bring that up is not even for the cultural part, but actually for the food part, because Russians in general, like, eat head to tail animals. You know, these were people who lived impoverished, immigrants. And so for anybody who's in that state, you know, like, you don't throw away food. Right. There's no capacity to throw away food. So because they don't throw away food, part of the culture became to eat everything. And I mean, like, everything. You know, it doesn't matter what part of the animal, a Russian will eat it. And so Elon and I grew up in a household where like eating, sorry if this is gross to you, like fish eyes was normal, or like cow brains was normal, or chicken hearts was normal, like, so what I find with American culture, since I moved here, I always found this very odd, but it's only odd from my perspective, is that this culture is extremely sensitive to textures. If the texture is not just right, they won't touch it, right? And so I bring that up because there's all sorts of parts of the animals that I will eat, not even a thought. I'm talking bones, marrow, it doesn't matter. I'm like a wild animal. You stick it in front of me, I have no issue eating any part of an animal. Now, again, westernized culture people might look at that and be like, that's insane. And by the way, that's the much healthier option, because in American culture, we don't eat head to tail. People are very strict about the parts of the animal that they're eating. And so, for example, if you don't eat the liver, you don't eat the heart, stuff like that, you're missing out on basically what everything in multivitamins is trying to synthesize. You can just get from eating like an animal's liver. You will get pretty much everything your body needs. Yeah, Suzanne saying my husband is Russian, right? Like, so what my point here is like, so who's right in that? Nobody's right, but it's a matter of conditioning over what I find acceptable that's on my plate. And I'm willing to have that experience and completely be with it, to friends that I had growing up who, if they saw that food, literally could not sit at the table, would not have that experience, and we would immediately avoid it to go try to have a different experience. Doesn't make me better, doesn't make me worse, doesn't make them better, doesn't make them worse, but I'm just using that as a metaphor for how it is that we treat our inner state. Oh, Veronique, French snails all day long. Please try something more challenging. My son is so funny. I have a 1.5-year-old, and he is like the ultimate nature boy. Like, he just wants to go outside, be in nature, on grass, animals, dirt. Like, he just very comfortable wiping it all over his body. My eldest son, my eldest one, who's close to being 6 now, is nothing like that at all. He wouldn't step on grass for like the first 2 years. He didn't even want to go on sand. Like, he's just like, he needs his clean space and all that kind of stuff. Kind of how kids are with this juxtaposition. So again, sorry if this grosses you out, but my younger one will go outside, and we have so many snails in the backyard, and regularly has picked them up and put them in his mouth and eaten them. So he's not afraid of the sushi special. Even me and my wife were like, damn. But that's happened a number of times now. So, it's like, again, what's the context, And so, look, the more width you have to be with the experiences that arise in your life, there's just the more tapestry that's there. But along with that tapestry also comes that like things could go wrong, or things may go wrong. And maybe it's time for us to stop looking at things going wrong and start looking at as it's just teaching you where there's a misalignment. It's where you have not accepted some aspect of this reality, some aspect of yourself, some aspect of your experience. Now, does that make the experience wrong? Or is it your inability to be with what's arising that's ultimately creating the suffering and constraint in your life? And I would offer it's the latter. There's definitely like just suffering that's happening for people, right? Like at the physical level, chronic ailments, terminal diseases. And even that, I think we could make a pretty strong case and point at that to some degree, whether it's not the only reason it's happening, but to some degree, what has created that response in a person's life is this inability to be with what's inside of their body. And so the body, when we constrain around something, eventually, if we don't pay attention to it, and if it's not resolved, it's going to show up in other ways. So for example, like if you have toxicity in the body or mold toxicity, you can't see that, but eventually you're going to see that on the surface of your skin. Like your skin's going to start breaking out, hives, you name it. If you are having skin lesions from something that's happening, it's not because your skin is fucked up. It's because of the microbiome and other aspects that are other organs perhaps in the body are dealing with something. And now it's gotten to such a high degree that it's literally showing up on the skin in your body. And so the people will go to dermatologists and start treating the skin instead of treating the underlying thing, which is what's actually happening inside the body, is the health of the microbiota, or they have senescent cells that the body's not able to get rid of, or they've, even, for example, like people not wanting to get sick or experiencing having a temperature anymore because they'll just pop Tylenol or Advil to decrease the temperature, not recognizing that the body is not in danger when it's having a temperature. The body is actually increasing its temperature so that which is it's in the body that's creating the malfunction, if you want to call it that, is now the body's going to increase the heat. So to ruin the environment for that bacteria or germ or whatever to be in there, so it cannot survive. It cannot be there. It has to come out. And when you take drugs and you lower the temperature of the body, guess what you're doing? You're just prolonging your sickness. Where if you would just turn inside and be with what's arising, yes, certainly may be uncomfortable, even a greater level of discomfort. But you're going to be in that sickness for a much shorter period of time because you're going to let the body's intelligence do what it does, which is increase the heat and get rid of senescent cells and, detox through sweating and all that stuff. In the long run, not only it works out your immune system, but also gets rid of all the junk, right? All the old, like old oil in a car that actually needs to come out in order for the body to refresh itself. And so getting sick, there's nothing wrong with getting sick. It's actually a really important part of life to strengthen our body, to evolve into the environment. The environment is constantly giving us feedback through bacteria and germs and all this kind of stuff to actually help our evolution. And the people who have understood that, generally speaking, are the ones that are in greater physical health. And again, I'm sure there's exceptions to these rules. I'm speaking in generalities here. And I apologize if you've had a different experience. It's just my story. You can have a different story if you want. So I'm offering the same is true when it comes to your energetic, emotional, mental bodies. We carry around, quote, trauma, what psychology calls trauma, which is really just incompletions. They're incompletions that led to distortions. Those distortions led to us not being able to be with that part of our experience. And then we try to get rid of it for the rest of our lives, not noticing that by trying to get rid of it, you're actually the point of resistance that's strengthening it. And then you see it expand into more of your life. First, it's your relationships and your mental health, and then it's your emotional health, and eventually it's your physical health, because the body will respond with chronic and physical pain for emotional and mental things that have not been completed. The distortion will get to the point of physical trauma. It's, mostly proven. I mean, proven to me enough. I've seen enough evidence for that in my entire life, working with tens of thousands of people, how that happen to people. I've also seen the opposite happen. Again, I'm not going to use her name, but we've recently, in the last year, in the last 6 months, have had a client who has had severe scoliosis her entire life, and then began to do this work. And she was working with a physical therapist who one day she came in and the physical therapist asked her, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Why are you asking?" She said, "Because your scoliosis has nearly repaired itself. Like, I've never seen that before. What is it that you're doing?" And she's told her, she's like, nothing more than what we're doing here. And she will tell you from her firsthand experience that it's this work that did that. Not Elon and me. Elon and I don't do the work. We're not the healers. We don't manipulate and make shit happen like some puppet masters. That's not how this stuff works. It is all about your experience. That's why I said it's important that we point at it, but we don't tell you what to look at. I can only tell you what my experiences are and what I've seen. I've seen people now heal from a lifetime worth of epilepsy after doing just a few of our meditations. So maybe we could take the position that even though science is incredible, and I'm sure over the next decade or two, with the help of AI, we're going to have a level of understanding about the human body at such a high level that maybe we are able to avoid or cure all of diseases. But you still probably need to live another 10 to 20 years before we reach escape velocity, and suddenly the longevity of a human being becomes just a byproduct of the healthcare system. I hope that's where we're going, but I'm certainly not going to bank on that or rely on that, because I understand that the spiritual tool that we have is our consciousness. And that tool, regardless of what happens historically for humanity at any level, whether governments expand or whether they completely break down, whether the healthcare system makes all this available to us or begins to destroy us, I don't give a shit, because I'm going to rely on my own interpersonal, God-given humanity to understand how healing works. And the way that healing works across the board, whether you're talking about, the human body, is the just allowing for it to do its work. I was just listening to one of the most prolific virologists that I've been following for a very, very long time. Okay, I take one of his products. I love it. And he was just saying, he's gotten to a point where he will no longer offer medication to any of his clients. And then maybe that sounds fucking insane to you, because he understands that when you put I'm paraphrasing his words here. So paraphrasing, maybe not getting it exactly the way he meant it, is that by intervening in the body with chemicals, there can only be one outcome, is that you are manipulating the body, and there has to be some kind of a side effect, symptom, byproduct to putting chemicals in the body. And what we need to understand instead is that the environment that we're in is either supporting us or destroying us. And again, that goes for mental, emotional, and physical well-being. If you are in an environment in your home and you are using harsh cleaning chemicals, or just, even, I don't know, like buying like a cheap couch or something like that, there's VOCs and like chemicals that are used, petrochemicals that are used in your bedding, in your bed sheets, in the clothing that you're wearing, and what you're using to wash, and you don't realize that your house is just evaporating all these chemicals, and it's just sitting in your home, and you're breathing them in and day out, and this is destroying the endocrine system, destroying your gut biology, destroying your body's ability to manage and stabilize hormones. Like, you need to understand that you're putting yourself in that environment, and the body can only do so much for detoxifying itself. And then people wonder, why am I getting sick? And stuff like that. It's like that's the stuff that really requires a lot of our awareness. Yeah, drinking water straight from the tap, right? If anybody does research on what the fuck is in their water, it's goddamn terrifying. It just is. The permissible amount of chemicals and radioactivity, it's far surpassed that a very, very long time ago. So it's like, those are the little things that sometimes when you hear somebody's sick or dying, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to that person. They live such a healthy lifestyle. It's like, if you actually investigated, sometimes you find like they weren't doing that. Like, I'll tell you a story that I know from a personal friend, a doctor who's very, very smart. And she told me this story. I was like, wow, this guy was 32 years of age. And when he came to her, he was losing his hair. He was aging at an extremely rapid pace. He was trying to figure out what was going on. His microbiome, his gut biome was a fucking wreck. And if you want to know when your health is going to go to shit, just do a test on your microbiome. If you have leaky gut, it's going down quick. All right. So this guy is having these major health issues, and I'll wrap it up with this. But I hope you guys understand my metaphor here. And I'm not trying to be a doctor. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your life. I'm just saying, just pay attention. And these are the little things that you can support yourself with. Like, I'm about to turn 41 years old. And less than a month here, right? I look at people I've graduated high school with, and they look significantly older than me, many of them. Okay. Some of that is attributable to my spiritual practices and just living a life that has a lot less stress in it. Some of that is attributable to how much awareness I bring to the environment that I keep my physical body in as well. And so back to the story, it turned out that this guy was going to Whole Foods and getting a green smoothie every morning as part of his routine, which sounds like a really good idea because greens should detoxify the body, right? But what he didn't know, or what he wasn't aware of, is that the greens that they were using there, or at least the ones that he chose to get, were not of an organic variety. And whether you believe in organic or not, again, I think it's silly not to. The research is insurmountable against non-organic food, is that there are pesticides that are used on anything that's, GMO or non-organic. And again, that even seeps into organic food, but there's a lot less, hopefully, with that. And when you drink pesticides, you're drinking chemicals, let's just be clear, and that is decimating the bacterial population inside of your body, which has, again, everything to do with your health and our extremely intimate relationship with bacteria. And so he was basically drinking a 16-ounce cup of poison every single morning, which led to the degradation to the point where he was showing early signs of Alzheimer's in his 30s. And so if you just went to look at this guy's life on the surface, you'd be like, this is a healthy guy. Why would something like that be happening to him? Not recognizing what he was doing to himself. And the moment he stopped doing that, they started detoxifying many of those symptoms, my understanding, went away. I don't remember the exact story because I heard this like 10 years ago. But again, just to give some perspective here. So that's what we can do for our physical body. But you want to think about what's the environment that you're in internally, the environment that I keep with my emotions, the environment that I keep with my mindset. If I'm antagonized by every emotion and every thought that comes into my mind, I'm like, oh, damn it, I don't like that. I don't like this. That in itself is a kind of poison that we're drinking. It's a poison that we're creating through our experience. And so our inability to be with what's arising in our system is also one of the leading causes of ill health for people in their mental and emotional states. And it's all tied together. It's all tied together. If you're not taking care of your physical body, the energetic and emotional stuff is much, much harder, much, much harder. You literally cannot run the type of energy that we're talking about because your physical body, your temple, can't hold it. And so there's no one area of life that we can focus on to make it all better. And that's why we talk about lifestyles. Like, what's the lifestyle that you're going to generate and create for yourself that's going to allow for you to live inside of an environment that produces health, that produces well-being, that a byproduct of being in that environment is all the things that you already want. So just a kind of a question to leave you guys with. I hope this was informative for you today. All right, everybody. Love you very much. Thank you for the time. Sorry for the tech issues, and we'll see you back here next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show. So if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.